Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with life coach and energy coach Linda Armstrong. Today is Friday, February the 28th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And once again, I'm happy that the weekend is here and we get to actually start to relax. At least that's what I get to do. Well, sort of. I actually have quite a bit of work to do this weekend, but that's right. I'm trying not to think about that today. So how you doing, Linda? Things going well in your neck of the woods?
I'm doing good. Today's been a good day, very busy day. Things go. You know what it is? You just have to go with the flow. And how I keep thinking, well, this is the way this day is unfolding. I'm just going to go with it. Because rather than kind of fight it or think that it's wrong, I'm like, what if this is exactly perfect, right?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Instead of all those things, because I know you said you have a lot of things you want to get to. Instead of thinking about all those things I want to get to, because there's a bunch of things I want to get done today. And these other things are just taking so much longer.
I know.
I just decided, it's perfect exactly as it is.
And I'm
rolling with that.
I agree with you. That's exactly it, because that's how I've been feeling too. Like, oh my God, there's so many of these things. And that's not a good place to be in if you're trying to be a conscious creator and have your life go smoothly and lots of good things happen one after another. So you're right. You got to stop. You just kind of come to stop. Say, you know what? It's all going to work out. It's all going to be okay. Not a big deal.
Or maybe even ask, what's right about this? And I did notice during these things that I was doing that I was actually feeling an energy that felt really good. I'm like, this is like when, and it was bringing me back to a time when things just flowed real easy. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm getting that energy for a reason. So I'm just going to go with that. That's like my sign that, stop fretting about the stuff. What's important? It's a beautiful sunny day today. It's still cold, but it's beautiful and it's sunny out.
And we're on the upswing when it comes to the warmth of the weather, because things are starting to get warmer and haven't had a whole lot of snow this year. So, I mean, Louise and I are already thinking we may open the season a little bit early because spring may let us do that this year. So
maybe,
you never really know.
This week we have some 30s over the next 2 or 3 days, but then it's in the 50s again.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, how does it get any better than that?
That, especially this time of year here in the Northeast. Yeah, no doubt about that. So good things happening. Another good thing happened today. Every once in a while, I take a look at the numbers of the listeners of the podcast to see how we're doing. And I decided to do a year-over-year comparison. So this February to a year ago February to the year before that, the year before that. And I found a really interesting pattern. If I go back to February 2017, our average listenership per episode was 90 listeners an episode. If I go to 2018, that increased to 156 per episode. So we had a nice jump that year. And if I go to 2018, it jumped to 185 per episode. So a pretty good jump there. This year, we're averaging around 550 per episode. So we've got this big curve going on. And I'm thinking, boy, that curve continue one more year, we're in good shape. We're in really good shape at that point.
And so let's ask this. How does it get any better than that?
I don't know, but I'm excited by the possibility.
The universe will tell us. It'll just happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you had been talking about wanting to grow exponentially, right?
And it's
sharing
happening.
it, and it's happening. There you go.
It's happening. Yeah. It's very exciting stuff. So good things happening. And plus we also got a message from one of our listeners. This is Beth, who's actually written in before. She said that she still loves the podcast, even though she misses Neville Day. We stopped doing Neville Day because Cindy and I kind of ran out of Neville books to do. But she says, I love the most recent one with Cindy about relationships. She's so awesome. I have to agree with you, Beth. She is awesome. This morning, she says, I listened to you and Linda when you talked about Elon Musk, and we were trying to remember which episode that was. I can't remember which one it was. But she says, I'm emailing to say that Linda discussed a movie or maybe a documentary, and she mentioned the author's name. I want to look up this movie. I was driving while listening, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of it or the author. I went to look up the episode, and I can't find that either. So I hope you can help. Thanks for doing the podcast and sharing it with the world. I, for one, am grateful for every episode with Cindy and Linda and you, of course. So thank you, Beth. That was a great message to send in. And fortunately, you did remember which one it was. And she actually sent me a note after I forwarded that one to you, which basically said it was, she gave me the clue that it was something about a secret. And you had just sent me a link a couple days ago about this interview on Jenny McCarthy, I think it was, about the movie. And you mentioned that it was Cosmic Secrets. And then you sent me an email that says, oh, I think it was Cosmic Secrets.
And I think it was last week, maybe even
was
that we spoke about that.
I
Or
couldn't
recent?
remember.
Very
It was
recent.
recent. Yeah, I remember we had the
Yeah.
conversation about Elon Musk, but I couldn't remember which episode it was. But yeah, so anyway, that was the one. And you sent me that link earlier this week to the Jenny McCarthy interview, which was interesting. I listened to it, and
With
uh,
David Wilcock and Corey Good. So let's just
yes,
clarify who
yes,
the
I
two
should say
talking
who
about.
it is. Right, David
Yeah.
Wilcock, Corey Good. They're the two. I guess it's David is who was the one primarily behind the movie, Cosmic
Yeah, but
Secret.
it's a bunch of people. It's, I guess, primarily. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and Corey is also somebody who's involved in this, and it's pretty wild stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure the reason why you shared it primarily was because they talk about people with vibration levels and other races that have even higher vibration people and so forth, and that part sounded pretty cool.
Well, I mean, what they speak about is not new. A lot of people have spoken about this, and they go over and document. We're talking about how aliens are part of the benevolent beings that are helping the planet to raise in
hmm
its vibration so that everybody can ascend. You know, there's a lot of buzz out there about ascension and awakening.
hmm
And these guys, I mean, Corey was in the secret space program for years, and he's got lots of hands-on experience, and they talk about this. But they also document other people's documentation of things that have happened.
hmm
So, you know, I mean, to me, it's just very intriguing. And why not? Why are we the only humans exist in this entire universe where we don't even know where it ends? So, and I've had my own experience with that sort of a thing a little bit. So for me, it's not far-fetched.
hmm
For some people, they'll never get it until actually something happens, and then they're forced to get it. But if you've covered David Wilcox or listened to some of his stuff over the years, you'll see he's been talking about this, and that the government does leak things out. I mean, look at what is it, Area 51? You can't go there. You know, Rob Lowe did he used to have this reality show with his two kids, and they went there, and like they were chased away from the gate. Like they actually did their own thing. Oh, is this real? Like, can we go there? Are you allowed to just walk up to the gate and all that kind of stuff? It was they're like half-hour episodes. I don't know where it was, E or something like that. The channel. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there, and like we still can't explain how those pyramids were built and why did they have that technology. But where did that technology come from? They're like, we don't have the capability to do that as we are now, but something did that. Somehow it was done. And my husband was reminding me, and maybe they mentioned that on that interview, but I never hold information that well. That's why I was telling you, yeah, I'm not really the great one to talk about this kind of stuff. But there's something
That's all
called
right. We talk about a lot of stuff that we don't really know about, so this is nothing unusual.
Have you heard of the Baghdad Battery? So it's like 2,000 or 3,000 years old. It was discovered in Iraq, and when they replicated it, it worked. So who knew about electricity 2,000 or 3,000 years ago? And when people started talking about electricity in, you know, whatever these past hundreds of years, whatever it is, you could have been killed for even mentioning it, like you're a witch or something. But then look, we live with this every single day, and it's just expanding more and more. When you look at computers are now the technology, there's so much, and there's so much more. I like listening to these guys. There's a lot of technology that is going to be making its way out. And Elon Musk does tap into this stuff. So I don't know that we mentioned him regarding this, but we must have.
I can't remember exactly what we were talking about with Elon. I don't remember what the context of the conversation. He certainly has his fingers in a lot of interesting stuff. I think that probably what we were talking about at that point.
Well, or free energy. And there's a guy called Nissim Haramaya. I don't know if I can say his name right. He's been studying this stuff forever. And he had stuff coming to him as a young kid. And like his mind is so advanced because he's tuning into information. And he always talks about how free energy, we have free energy. It's just we're not allowed to have it yet.
We're not allowed to have it. We broke the law.
No, really, they're not letting that out. But he's working. You know, his thing. I haven't followed him quite a bit. Is working on how to get that out to you.
One thing I know for sure is that the hardest thing in the world to hold is the secret. So, I mean, if there is a secret to to be had. It's going to get out. It's just a question of when. You
Yeah.
don't really know when, but
Just a matter of when, right?
I mean, anything
Yeah.
that one person can create, another person can create. This is not
Yeah.
news,
I know you can even go as far as saying, well, we believe in law of attraction, right? But
right?
who's to say that's really real? I
Well,
feel
I
it's
do.
real.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I can't
but it
prove it.
right. There you go.
Yeah. And I think that's really the honest thing to say. I mean, I consider this to be a spiritual practice, what we do here.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not a science. We're not conducting data extraction. That's what science is basically all about, collecting data and seeing what the data points to. We're not doing that here. We kind of do it, what do they call it when you kind of do it ad hoc? You're not really doing it systematically, but you tell stories about, there's a word for that. I can't think what that word is. But there's lots of that kind of sort of informal data, and that's the kind of stuff
Yeah.
we talk about.
Well,
But
I mean, even like energy healing. Actually, I think now they can actually have equipment that can sense the energy in the brain waves and what's going on and stuff like that to try and explain it to some degree. But I can't even really describe what I feel when I'm working with people.
I know I've tried to get you to tell me. You still can't tell me sometimes.
No, I can't, because I get into this very expanded energy and things just flow. I'm just get very tuned in. I don't know how that happens. I can't tell you how that happens, but I know it happens. Right? Or
Yeah.
God. Can we prove that?
Yeah. People have been trying to do that for a long time.
Yeah.
Not with a whole lot of success, I might add. But
Yeah. So it's interesting stuff.
It is interesting stuff. And it kind of, there's a lot of interest in both in the political realm and the non-political realm, in the scientific realm as well, about what we could kind of loosely describe as conspiracy theories. And a conspiracy theory, in my mind, everybody has a different definition, I think. But for me, a conspiracy theory it's kind of a form of spiritual exploration and speculation, but it's also usually tied to some kind of a horrible thing that's going to happen or is happening or is about to happen, and everybody should know about it, and it becomes this really big deal like that. And as you mentioned, we believe in the law of attraction. Well, as a believer in the law of attraction, one of the first rules I follow is, if there's something coming to me and I don't like it, the last thing I want to do is give it any energy. I mean, I'm just not interested in that. So most often when I'm presented with a conspiracy theory, my first reaction is to think, okay, so what doom and gloom are they trying to sell to me? Because I'm not interested in that part of it. But the other flat side of these conspiracy theories, some of them have some very interesting speculations. And when you look at it just as speculations, a lot of people look at conspiracy theories like, oh, we got to prove this thing. This thing that we're looking at, we're going to give you proof that it's happening because it's true, and everybody needs to know that it's true. And to me, that's not where I'm interested in going. The interesting thing from my perspective is, if I speculate about something, and yes, I recognize I'm speculating about it, I'm not trying to prove anything. Am I learning anything from it? Am I getting anything from it? And is it on a topic or is it about something that I like, that I enjoy? If it is, then yeah, sure, let's look at the thing. But let's also keep it in perspective. And that's really what the point I wanted to make today was, there's lots of interesting stuff out there. It's really cool that we're getting more and more people tapping into a lot of the nomenclature, a lot of the stuff that we talk about here on the show. We're talking about vibration, lower and higher vibration, talking about living in higher vibrational levels, people who are perhaps advanced in ways that many of us don't even understand yet, because they have been able to raise their vibration to such a happy level that they just live there all the time. That's really cool stuff. That's interesting. I like that. So I like looking at that kind of thing.
Well,
and
what?
That's the good part.
But lack of proof is not proof of lack, right?
Well, sometimes it depends what you mean by lack. I mean, if you mean it from the LOA perspective, it can be actually, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah, but I mean, so like some things don't have to be proved. You don't have to prove that God exists to get the benefit out of that. But this thing, when it comes to aliens helping us to evolve so that we can ascend to whatever that next thing is, did you watch that whole interview?
I did, actually. I had to watch it in pieces. Yeah. But I did watch it.
It's just like, I kind of feel like even for those people who don't quite get it and don't maybe believe that could be so, it doesn't hurt to listen, because when things do get disclosed and more of this stuff leaks out, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I heard something about, oh, so this is
Mhm.
it, okay, instead of being like shocked. And that's why the government pieces things out, because if like some other some other beings, whatever you might call that, from some other place were to just show up all of a sudden, people would go like crazy.
I'm
Don't
not
you
so sure
think?
about. I don't think so. Actually, that's
You
the
don't
kind
think
of thing you
people
see.
would freak out? I
Nah,
think
I
a
don't
lot
think
of
so.
people who are very close to anything outside of this material stuff might just lose it in some way, or get fearful of it, and when it doesn't need to be a fearful thing.
There are
Because all
probably
those
some.
movies, but all those movies out there, most of them make it seem like it's an evil thing, or something they're going to take over, and
I agree with
that
that.
kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
So yeah.
They definitely do that. But
Yeah.
by the same token, we have to remember movies are created for the dramatic effect that they can create. So they always show the crowds going crazy. But when you
Yeah.
actually look at what happens, even in the worst disasters, I mean, look what happened during 9/11. You didn't have a whole bunch of people running around saying, "Oh my God, the world's ending." What you had was a whole bunch of people trying to help other people out. So people didn't panic like crazy.
No,
Doesn't mean that people weren't traumatized by it. They were,
yeah,
but
but a
they
lot of
didn't
people,
they didn't react in the way that you see in the movies. Is what I'm saying.
right, but a lot of people did go into fear.
Sure.
And
Oh
that's
yeah.
why Muslims were like beaten everywhere, that were just gentle Muslims, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Sure.
Because that was created by the fear that came out of that.
But
But
my point is that was a small percentage that engaged in that behavior. The large majority of
yeah,
people didn't go into panic mode. Yeah, I think everybody was feeling the fear, but that doesn't mean everybody went off their rockers. They
right.
actually kind of held it together pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what normally happens. The thing I just like to remember is, and this is true for this kind of theory. I mean, there are right-wing conspiracy theories, there are left-wing conspiracy theories, there are all kinds of them, and most of them, like I said, have this side of it, like, oh my God, I got to tell the world about this terrible thing that's happening, and everybody has to know about this. The funny thing is, those terrible things that they're all pointing to, if they simply understood how law of attraction worked and said, I really don't want to keep focusing on negative things and telling the world about negative things because I don't want to bring those negative things into my life. Well, actually, I think a lot more people would be interested in the conspiracy theories. I really do. Because what happens if you take like one of my favorite ones to look at is global warming. I can kind of put that into the conspiracy theory thing. And yes, I know a lot of people feel yes, it's fact. The world's going to pretty much be in devastating shape by 2050 and so forth. But it also has a lot of the characteristics of a conspiracy theory. And by that I mean, look at all the doom and gloom about it. Oh my God, the world is going to end. We're going to have oceans flooding and all this other kind of stuff, and species are going to be disappearing, and populations around the world are going to be devastated, and doom and gloom on a massive scale. And they keep focusing on it over and over and over again. Well, from a law of attraction perspective, I say to myself, well, that's not a good thing to keep focusing on, because regardless of whether the theory is true, you're going to help make it true. You're going to bring it about just by focusing that way. Whereas if you turn it around and you start focusing on, okay, well, we've had these indicators that this could not possibly be not a good direction, but maybe there are some benefits in it. Maybe we can actually focus instead on what we would like for a climate. I mean, how about that? Wouldn't it be interesting if we actually had a climate control specialist come along and say, instead of trying to scare everybody about what's going to happen by 2050, I'm going to tell you about what kind of goal I want to accomplish by 2050 with the climate.
Yeah.
That would be a completely different experience.
And I would say what in my perspective and point of view is that I'm just going to trust that this earth knows what it's doing and that it will sort itself out. Because I mean, the earth, things that happen on the earth are to shift the energy and it sorts itself out. So I'd rather send love to the earth to support it with whatever it needs.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the speculation. Speculating is great. That's part of creativity. That's part of human imagination. I mean, one thing you can say about these conspiracy theories, they really show off the range of human imagination. I mean, just listening to that interview that those two guys did with Jenny McCarthy, they were talking about a slave population on Mars that's hidden away, and millions of people, both from Earth and from other planets, who are being forced into forced labor to create all this stuff. I mean, this is like right out of a science fiction novel.
Yeah.
They said things like, and I have to admit, some of these sound a little crazy to me, but they said Star Wars was a documentary. I thought that was pretty cool. They said Star Trek, Starfleet Academy is actually in creation right now, and people are signing up for it. And I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah, but
well,
you know what?
interesting.
There's probably quite a bit. They probably have some truth to back that up with, and I'm
Well,
sure it's in the
perhaps.
different books and the things that they're doing. Yeah, it does
But,
sound
but,
crazy, but
but
really,
my point is that not that it's crazy. It shows the range of imagination. Look how far people are able to take
yeah.
imagination.
So I'm going
That's
to
a
say
powerful
this:
thing.
where does imagination come from, too? Like, if you can tap into a thought, that means it's possible to create, right? Isn't that what
Sure.
Abraham Maslow says?
Yeah.
So people who are thinking these things up, are they thinking it up from past lifetimes and experiences that they know of, and it comes out through this word now in this book or whatever? You know what I mean?
Anything's possible
Yeah.
along that line. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the way I look at it is I really do believe and think about humans as being what most people call God, because we are connected to source energy. We are part of source energy. And I consider that to be God. Okay. So in that sense, we all have God power. Well, yeah, we all have God power. Of course we can create. There's no limit to what we can create. There are truly no limits to imagination. The only limits that exist are the ones that we put in place.
Right.
And that means we can remove them.
And also with some of these sci-fi shows, you know, they're saying that it's been drip fed to these people to put into that. That's how they get the information out to the public, little by little, so that we don't freak out when things totally change. And they're saying it could happen within our lifetime. So we'll see.
We will see that.
So
hey, the
it's
proof
just
is always
more
in the pudding.
information out there, right? This cornucopia of information that you can digest and see what sits right with you. It doesn't, like have you ever done any past life regressions? I've seen other lifetimes that I've experienced, and I've seen where I wasn't in a human form. So to me, it's not so far-fetched, because I remember when that one came through, when I did that, I was not really in this world yet. And here all of a sudden, all this memories are coming back about, I don't know, did I ever tell you that?
I think you did tell me this story early on. I think you told me, yeah.
The thing where, you know, it's like tracing back some kind of trauma that happened now, and they take you back, like, you know, what's an earlier time when this happened, an earlier time when this happened. And all of a sudden, like, these thoughts are popping in my head, and I'm like, and this person could tell that I was having these thoughts come up because they use like an e-meter. You hold these cans, and the wires are connected to a meter that's monitoring the electric charge. So they know when you're thinking something. And so this guy would say, "So what's that?" I'm like, "Nothing." I was not going to say what I was seeing in my head, because I'm like, this is freaking weird, you know. And I didn't want to say it. So, but it kept staying there. It wouldn't go away. He's like, "Well, what is that?" "No, just tell me. This is no big deal. Whatever you're seeing, whatever it is, just tell me." I'm like, "Okay."
You asked for it.
I said, "Well, I'm fighting with this kid, but we don't look like we do now." And we're in this kind of like a spaceship, and has a big window like in Star Trek, and looking out there, you know. And then I start telling the whole story. There's this little spaceshipy thing flying around, and me and this kid or being or whatever, we were the younger ones, we're fighting over who gets to go next. And the guy's like, "Okay, good." And then you see anything early, and it blew so much energy off of when I actually said what I saw.
Sure.
And because there was charge to the fight I was having, that emotion was there. So by seeing it and talking about it and putting it out there, the energy blew. I mean, that's what happens. You look at it, the energy blows. So, but I didn't understand that back then. I could feel it, but I didn't know what the heck was happening.
There's a lot of stuff that comes to our minds, whether it's through something as a formal process like this, or just through general, daydreaming, that we can't even begin to understand where it came from, or what the thought means, or what is it connected to. That just happens. It's just that's part of being a creative being. Creation ideas come to us.
Where I knew that it was really real, because I could feel the emotion attached to it. Like, it felt real, like this really happened, but I didn't really understand that this could actually really happen at that time. I do now, but this is like 30 years ago. So the next day I was living in California, and I was working at Knott's Berry Farm, doing the graphics around the farm,
right?
Because I was doing just graphic arts back then. And I'm driving on the freeway, and all of a sudden it hits me that this being that I was fighting with is my older brother in this lifetime.
Oh my.
And I was like, and I felt it. And it overcame me where I was sobbing. I had to like get off the road because I couldn't drive because it hit me so hard. Oh my God, that's my brother Lou. That's my brother. I don't know how, but that's who it is. I just knew. So, you know, when you have some experiences like that, it's not so far-fetched.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, I think just about every idea that ever has come to mankind, whether it came into fruition or not, was at some point considered by somebody to be far-fetched. The idea back in the 1950s, the idea that a human being could run a mile in 4 minutes was considered far-fetched.
Absolutely. And the 100th monkey story, you know, I mean,
yeah.
Or did you ever see that? What was that called? The split. That there's that one study where they were looking at particles being blown out of this thing, and it just had the same pattern. It would shoot through. I wish I could think of it. I could ask my husband. He could tell me in a second. And they put so it would just do the same thing. Oh yeah, the light would split somehow, and it would form some kind of patterns. I don't know what it was, and it was consistent. But when they put a camera in the room to watch what was happening, it did something totally different.
Right, the observer effect.
Yeah, so when it was being observed, it changed.
Yeah.
Why did I bring that up?
Well, because
that's
actually at the core of what we're talking about here, because the observer phenomenon, as I call it, is a really well documented one. It basically came to us first through the theoretical explorations of quantum scientists who were trying to explain why it was that they could do an experiment, and in that experiment an electron would appear here, and then if they did the experiment in another way, it would appear over here. It was the same electron at the same time, and that was the key thing that threw them off. At the same instant in time, it could be in two different places, and they couldn't explain that. And over time, they've come to realize that behavior actually happens a lot with high vibration particles.
Yeah.
Which of course ties in directly to what we're talking about.
I just checked out. It's called the double slit experiment.
Yes, so yes, that's right.
If you want to have a better understanding of that, you can just Google it, and you can watch videos on this. Yeah.
In fact, the scientific concept of Schrodinger's cat is tied into the same thing. It's a thought experiment along the same lines. But yeah.
So quantum physics is actually starting to prove this stuff that used to be so-called woo-woo, right?
Oh yeah. Well, quantum physics used to be considered woo-woo. When Einstein first proposed the idea of the general and special theories of relativity, there were a number of leading scientists at the time who said they actually published papers saying he was nuts, that he was absolutely crazy. And as time has gone on, his theory has, at various times in various pieces, has been proven. Yep, it works here. Yep, it works here. Yep, it works here. Yep, it works here. So, and that's what science does. Science collects data over time. So the data has been coming along and showing that, the theory actually was pretty accurate.
Right. And then also, was it Einstein? I'm trying to remember. Would get information in his dreams, right? And maybe it was even the E equals MC squared. I'm not really sure. But while he was asleep, he woke up enough to etch whatever it was onto the bed frame.
Oh, I remember that story. Was that Einstein? I can't remember who that was.
Yeah.
I do remember
Newton.
That story.
Was it Newton? No, it had to be. I don't know. Anyway, so this and Tesla. I mean, Tesla. The things he was coming up with, it's all coming from somewhere. They're getting the information from somewhere. So are those benevolent beings downloading information to them? Yeah. Why not?
Could be.
Guides and angels, like what are they? You can feel them, you can sense them, you can receive messages from them. But you actually can't physically see them.
Hey, the way I look at it is,
some people can.
So they say, I've actually met a few, but the thing that I look at is we're all connected to source energy. So we have we have the connection to ultimate power. We all have that at all times. So to me, it almost doesn't even matter how it shows up. The fact is, of course, it's going to show up. If we're all connected to infinite power, it's going to come through one way or another. It just we may interpret it as having come through one way or another because that's how it made sense to us.
Right.
but it's still coming through. It doesn't matter
So
how.
if the information exists somewhere else in another galaxy, who knows where, because we don't even know where any of that ends, right? It exists. So
Mhm.
if it exists, you can tap into it.
Yeah. I think it's important to have all of us kind of pat ourselves on the back in that way, because we as humans have a tendency to externalize our own powers and say our powers are really in the other hands, the hands of other people. You know, maybe it's God, maybe it's government people, maybe it's spirits, whatever. And sure, everyone has that power, so in that sense, that's true. But let's also remember we've got the power. The power is inside us. All we have to do is connect to that. You know, and then we're just as powerful as anybody else. We're just as able to come up with this stuff as anybody else.
Do you remember that song? And it says, "We've got the power," and this
Yeah,
music
right.
would go. I used to have it's called, what was it? LOA. I don't know. I had a radio show. I can't remember right now. Live LOA or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And on Blog Talk Radio. In fact, those episodes are still up there.
Uh-huh.
But that was my music. I didn't know that, I didn't know anything about copyright or mattered. I made a bumper beginning and ending with that music. It was perfect. I loved it. Yeah.
You're probably all right, because unless you were charging money or having paid advertising, then you're covered under copyright law. But yeah. Good idea in general to be respectful of other people's copyright.
But it was great music for that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, music has had a huge influence on all of our lives. Louise likes to say that often. She turns it into a joke. You know, very often she and I will be thinking about the same tune independently, and we'll realize we were thinking about the same tune. And her response will be, "Hell, music hasn't had any effect on our lives, has it?" You know.
Yeah.
Which is true. You know, we all tap into that same thing. But yeah, I think the fact is it's fun that anytime that we've got these stories coming along about people who are using the terminologies that we use here and are exploring the exciting side, the really intriguing and fun side of learning to be a conscious creator, learning how to raise vibration, learning how when we do that, we gain more and more control over our lives, understanding how all that works, and then applying it. That to me is the best part, learning to apply it. You know, all of that, as more and more of that comes out, it's just a good thing. I mean, have you heard about the Secret movie coming out?
Another one?
There's another movie, yeah. Rhonda Byrne has been working with some people in Hollywood, and there's a movie coming out. I believe it's due for release on April 17th, called The Secret, Dare to Dream, and it's a fictional story. In other words, they've created a movie based on the concepts of The Secret, but showing how they play out in the lives of the characters in the movie.
Yeah, it reminds me of what I love are Abraham Hicks books, the Sarah books.
Yes.
There's like 3 of them, right? I love those books, and it's very fantastical and geared towards children, but it is exactly law of attraction being played out.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see more of that as time goes on, which is exciting. It's fun to be a part of something kind of ahead of the curve. I never really thought about that when I started the podcast, that, well, I'm going to be ahead of the curve when I start this podcast. I just wanted to start the podcast because I needed to talk about the subject and I needed to kind of work on myself and so forth. But yeah, it is kind of fun to be on, kind of ahead of the curve and seeing this stuff come along, because we're going to see it more and more and more. And it's just going to be a fun ride to enjoy while it's all coming out. So good stuff. Good stuff. So anyway, Beth Ann, thank you very much for sending in that comment. You look at the conversation you started here. That was pretty cool.
Well, I pulled out a bunch of decks. I don't know what the heck they're going to say, if they're going to have anything to do with this whole conversation.
Well, I don't see how they can miss, actually, today.
And I pulled out for some reason, I pulled out this deck that I haven't used in a while.
Okay. Angels and Ancestors.
Yes, by Kyle Gray. He's a young guy. Angels and Ancestors. And I don't know. See what it says. I'll just pick a card from here. I've got some of my regular decks out there too.
Well, we already know you are quite intuitive about which decks to pull from, because you always have that ability to just pull the right card. I know you say it's not you, it's being handed to you, but nevertheless, you tune into that really, really well. Yeah. So there was a reason why you grabbed that deck. We'll just have to find out what it is.
We'll see what happens. I mean, in fact, I was working with a client the other day, and at the end, I thought, let me just pull a card for her. So I pulled this card, and it was like Broken Heart reversed or something. I'm like, oh boy, what's this gonna say? And we're working on relationship stuff.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Anyway, the card was a perfect. All the trauma and the hurts regarding relationships are in the past. You're free to move on. I'm like, oh my God, this is great, right?
Yeah. Very good.
All right, so let's see what this deck wants to say.
Okay. All right.
And what do we get? White Witch, be the light.
Oh, okay. And she's got an owl with antlers. Is that what that was? Yeah, he's got antlers. Okay.
Yes, he does.
That's pretty wild.
Okay, well, let's see what this one's all about. Let's see, does he put a number in here? No, I think they're alphabetical. There it is. Okay, and that was upright. I don't know if it matters if it's in reverse. I haven't used a stick in a while. Okay, so the message is, take the higher road and choose the light. Remove yourself from lower energy experiences. So the White Witch card represents the maiden aspect of the triple goddess of paganism and modern Wicca. The maiden is a gentle, innocent, and pure aspect of the goddess, a loving soul who wants nothing but the best for the whole earth. Here she's joined with the horned owl, showing that she is willing to respect those with more wisdom and experience than she has, but she is also willing to trust what she feels to be right within. Wow. That doesn't hit home, right?
Right. Yeah.
With this card, you're being reminded of the goddess within. Then there's an extended message that says, no matter what is happening to you or around you, you have a choice. Choose not to be pulled into dramas, bickering, or lower energies that are just going to limit your joy. If you're surrounded by people who are hostile towards you or someone else, or you are in a negative situation, perhaps in your workplace, you're being invited to be the light. You are an incredible person who can really bring light. So how can you change the energy? Can you redirect the conversation to love? How can you protect yourself? How can you help the person that is being picked on? Or are you the one who is guilty of causing a drama? You will know the answers. Know also that you're being encouraged to shine the light that you were born to shine, to share. Yeah, well, that's pretty interesting.
Well, it makes a lot of sense too, because when we deal with stuff, because we've been talking about subjects that can be kind of overwhelming, and you hit upon the fact that people can become overwhelmed by it. When we deal with overwhelming stuff, we need that perspective, and that's what the card is talking about. We need to maintain that perspective, because perspective is how we kind of gather in that new stuff and accept it, and not let it overwhelm us.
And plus, this whole thing with especially what Corey Good and David Wilcock are talking about with the ascension, those with a high vibration are going to move into this higher space. And the very few, because they say you have to have at least 51% of your interest is in helping somebody in some way or helping the planet in some way, and then you're good to go. Those others that carry a very low vibration may not have the same opportunity, or might not move into the same type of space, whatever you want to call that. I don't want to get into that right now, but that's the whole thing. You want to live high vibe.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons. Because when you're in that high vibe, you're helping other people to be in that higher vibe, and only good things can come from a higher energy, an energy with peace, love, joy, appreciation, gratitude, all of that. So, but I love how in the beginning it says, see what feels right within you, because only you know what feels true to you. And sometimes people might hear some stuff like the things we were talking about and think, a part of them will say, no way, because they think the group out there is like, no way, it's crazy. But maybe some part of them inside, well, I don't know, what about it? Maybe there's something to it. But sometimes we don't allow that voice. I've always had that voice. I mean, since I was very young, I'm like, this can't be it. There's got to be more than this. How can this be the only thing?
I like the statement that Carl Sagan made on that. He says, it would be an awful waste to have all that space out there, nobody in it.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. It's really true,
Well, and it doesn't make sense to me that there wouldn't be. How? How is it just us?
It seems kind of odd if that were the case. I mean, it's not impossible. And I actually would be okay with it either way.
Anything's possible.
Because, I mean, if you really look at it, you can look at it the other way, that if you have all that empty space and there's nobody else out there and we're the only living beings in the entire universe, well, that just means we have so much more room to grow. So lots of room for expansion here.
But still, in an unlimited universe full of possibility, how can that be? How can we limit to just that? That doesn't make sense to me.
And the beauty of it is, because we are creators and we do know how the law of attraction works, we can create it either way and it will be true. So it's up to us. Do we want the universe to be populated? Well, then if we focus and believe and turn our minds to that, then it will be populated. It already is in our minds, and it becomes true in reality. So we can have our cake and eat it too in that sense.
Right. And then you could even take it further with the we are all one, we are the God energy. Why would it be just limited to this form?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that there'd be all kinds of different ways to express ourselves physically. There doesn't have to be just one way. That would be kind of limiting, to say the least. By the way, Daniel Mangena, who does the Tuesday and Thursday shows with me, was tuning in and said, I love this topic. I was writing about this in one of my books. So we tapped into that with him. And Jenny was asking about the Sarah books. And Jenny, the spelling is S-A-R-A. There's no H on it. There are 3 of them. They're by Esther and Jerry Hicks. The first one, Sarah book 1, is Sarah Learns the Secret About the Law of Attraction. The second one, I'm reading off of Amazon. The second one is Solomon's Fine Featherless Friends. And the third one is Sarah book 3, A Talking Owl is Worth 1,000 Words. So look on Amazon and you'll see the 3 Sarah books by Esther and Jerry Hicks, which is Abraham Hicks.
And they are awesome. I remember playing them for my son because at the time he was young, like when I first heard about them, I don't know if it's when they first came out. And we would take a 3.5-hour drive up to some land we had in upstate New York. Those books would be on. We would not want to get out of the car, you know, and we listened to them quite a few times. They're really, really awesome. You want to keep listening because you want to see what happens next, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So
before you go on, we also have another person commenting. So this is Josephine. I'm sorry, I don't recognize you, but I'm glad you're here. Welcome to joining us on the show. She says, I've been reading a lot of classic poetry lately, and I can't help but connect it to people like Neville and Murphy, etc. A great topic for an episode would be comparing poetry and New Thought. That's an interesting idea. So thanks for bringing that up. She says, also, I want to thank you all for inspiring me to start a YouTube series. Very good. Where I read poems inspired by the teachings of Neville and Joseph Murphy, Lawrence Scovel Shinn, etc. Good for you, Josephine. That's fabulous. Well done.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. More and more people are getting into this. It's great. I love it.
So I picked a card while we were talking, and it's from the Ask Your Guides.
Okay.
And the card I got was...
This is a Sonia Choquette. Okay.
Yeah. Compromise, Master Teacher.
Ooh, okay. Let's see how this ties. This is going to tie in, I'm sure of it.
Let's see what it says. All right. So it's about concession, fairness, democracy, and neutrality. Your master teacher is reminding you that nothing is entirely good or bad, even people, and that every person has their own version of reality, which may not necessarily agree with yours. Instead of arguing with or feeling wronged by those who refuse to submit to your point of view, give up your righteous and rigid demands and broaden your perspectives to include the interests of those you struggle with now. Mentally move towards the center and open your mind to look at the situation from all of the points of view. Although it's easy to feel indignant and defensive as you deal with your current impasse, the truth is that no one's trying to harm you. Instead, your detractors are simply supporting their own interests and priorities, which are different from yours. Rather than react emotionally to their resistance, strive to understand them. Be mindful not to be overly self-centered, however justified you may feel. Strive to be fair instead. Your master teacher's message is, accept that your interests are no more or no less important than those of the other people around you. So the only way to progress to higher ground is to compromise.
It's a great point. I mean, I'm not sure I would have called that compromise. I think I would call that simply coming to terms with your own stuff, which is, I think of that as being a little bit different. But compromise, I'm okay with the word. But I love the message behind it for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, the message specifically talks to people who are resistant to wild and crazy ideas from other people. But also, by the same token, it speaks to the other people who have the wild and crazy ideas. Like, okay, you got a wild and crazy idea and other people aren't accepting it. Relax. It's okay. You don't have to go prove everything to everybody. You know, everybody needs to kind of take a breath.
Well, I actually feel it's really speaking a lot to being non-judgmental, to moving out
Yeah.
of judgment. And
Yeah.
the only way really to raise your vibe and live high vibe is to drop judgment
Exactly.
and to just come from love and understanding. So
It's true.
maybe compromise could be the word, but
Hmm.
we tend to look at that in a different way. But if the motive to compromise is just that, well, I don't have to judge that person just because they don't think the way I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
And if I let it go, maybe I can hear more of what they actually said. Because a lot
Hmm.
of times people shut off and they don't even hear really a word the other person's saying because they've
Oh
already
yeah.
made a decision or a judgment as to what it is and might be missing a whole huge nugget of something that would support them in their life in some way.
Sure. Oh yeah, that can
Yeah.
definitely happen. And it's a challenge. Let's be perfectly honest. It's a challenge when we're presented with stuff where some of the stuff presses our buttons to hear it out, to hear the rest of it, because we're so focused on, oh, there's that button that got pushed again. Never mind that they're giving me this golden piece of gold over here. I'm focused on this one hot button thing that they pushed on.
Right. But you know what the
Yeah.
beauty of that is, especially with the work that I do, is that that's an opportunity for you to see what programs are running within you that are not supporting you. So whenever
True.
resistance comes up, it's like, oh, well, thank you, because now I can release that.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep holding that, so I can keep getting triggered by everybody who acts in a certain way. Right. So really,
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like it when it happens, but it is a way if your awareness is open enough for you to go within and say, okay, why is that triggering me so much? Like, where have I
Mhm.
experienced something like that? What can I let go of?
And it's one of the things that Louis D'Souza was hammering on this past Monday, talking about the great beauty of contrast and really just embracing stuff that he doesn't like, simply because he loves the fact that it makes it clear to him, okay, I know I don't like that. Great. Now I'm ready to do my next bit of expansion. So what
Yeah.
do I like?
Yeah. And so an easy way to do it is the access consciousness way, where it's like, okay, interesting point of view. I have that point of view. Even though you're not sure that you do, you may be aware that you do, but if it's triggering you, there's something within you somewhere that's connected to.
That's true. Yeah,
So
it can't trigger you without that.
just by saying interesting point of view, I have that point of view, and saying it like a bunch of times over and over, you start to feel lighter and literally the energy is releasing.
Yeah,
You can do this stuff for yourself.
that's cool. That's good stuff. I like it.
Yep. All right, I'm going to
We,
my,
we
my
got a
fave.
wow from Jenny, by the way. I just had to tell you that. We got a
Oh yeah?
wow. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What time is it? We have time? We have a little bit of time. I'm going to go to
Sure.
my favorite deck here,
Okay.
the Energy Oracle.
That's the one I
Let's
think
see
I
what
got for
comes.
Louise, actually.
Yeah, is it?
I think it is. Wait, who made that one?
Sandra.
I'm
What
not
does it
sure.
say?
It kind of looks like it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Sandra and Taylor.
I'll have to double check it after the show.
Well,
But I think that's the one.
the back of the cards look like this, and the cards look like this.
I think that's the one. Yeah. I know we've gone to that
But
one
I
in the
gave
past
you.
here on the show.
I'm sure I gave you this link because it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite decks.
Well, that's what I asked for when I was
Yeah.
doing the shopping. I said, "Give me what's the best one
Yeah.
out there? What's the one you like the most?" He said, "Well, this is the one I like the most."
I think I gave you a few. Probably I probably put this one up at the top.
I think so.
All
Yeah.
right. Let's see what we get today with this one.
Oh, Jenny had a comment. She says the discussion on compromise, understanding others, shows how I would like to be able to deal with those who have opposite views, especially political ones like my in-laws. We all know how that one feels.
You know what? I don't even listen to the news anymore because just, it's forget it. It's a tough one.
It's a great thing, though. Well done, Jenny. I mean, to be able to embrace that was actually one of my most difficult things too, because I used to be a very political person, and letting go of that had really proven to be a challenge. But over time, you can do it just by embracing the way you're describing there. So yeah, you don't have to agree with somebody. Just you kind of listen to them, and you can keep your own opinions to yourself. It's all right, but you can still accept some of the stuff that they're saying and embrace that part.
That's right, because I'm finding that I think that the more I don't really partake in it and I allow there to be different voices, then you can actually hear something say on the other side that like, oh, okay, I can see where they're going with that. I just don't agree with the way they're putting it out there or something like that, right?
Yeah, my nephew kind of went on a harangue over the Christmas holiday, basically took over the conversation in the room and was just going after us about his political views. And we're kind of sitting there, and I'm just keeping my mouth shut. He's aiming a lot of it at me. I'm just keeping my mouth shut. I'm nodding in appropriate places. And he finally says something I agree with this. And I shout out, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So we just got strategy in reverse.
Strategy reversed. Okay. What is that picture? Is that a quill pen? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
It is. Okay. Yeah. All right. Strategy reversed. Okay. Let's see what it says.
So let's see what it says. So it's about making a plan. So when the strategy card is reversed, it indicates a stall in progress due to lack of planning. You may have a goal in mind, but no specific ideas about how to achieve it. Or you may have found that your original plans have hit a wall and it's now time to reevaluate things. In this case, remember that the path of least resistance may be tempting, but it rarely leads anywhere new. Don't let the mundane tasks of life eat up all of your time and take you off course. Instead of floundering and wandering around in confusion, put some significant mental effort into starting or renewing a comprehensive plan of attack. This card reverse is warning you to get out of the role of passive observer and become the authority and director of your own destiny.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
All right, you want to speak to it?
Right there. Well, you can't really say it any better than that.
Yeah.
But you have to, yeah, it's really important to kind of get out of your own way so that you can be the leader of your own life. I mean, who else is going to be the better leader of your life than you? I don't know of anyone who can do it better than you.
Yeah.
You know? I wouldn't want anybody else to do it other than you. In fact, that's when the cool things in life happen. When we are, especially, I notice it when I'm being respectful of kids, particularly, but of any adult, any person, and I'm just letting them be who they are and then watching. And amazing things happen when they feel empowered to just be who they are. They say amazing things. They do amazing things. Incredible stuff. They demonstrate parts of their personality I never even saw before, just because they're expressing who they are.
Well, because that one part of saying you may have found that your original plans have hit the wall and it's time to now reevaluate things. So it's kind of like just open, like instead of having that tunnel vision about something, opening up to many more possibilities that could be there, even those that you kind of maybe thought, no way, but you can take another look at it, having dropped maybe the judgment against it, and see what little nugget might come in that can really put that focus back into your plan in a new and expanded, better way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's when we let go of stuff, it's amazing what can come through. It's truly amazing. Stuff that surprises us comes through is what I find. So,
what did I pick? 3 cards already? I'm going to do one more.
Jenny asked an interesting question. Going back, she was talking about dealing with political in-laws. It says, I would like to be able to ask, why do you feel that way?
She would like to, but she doesn't.
But apparently, that's all she said.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead and ask it. Why not?
So do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Be prepared for an extended answer. You know, they may not shut up, but you know.
The thing is, you don't want to engage in arguing for your point of view. You just want to be able to really hear whatever their point of view is. And when you allow that person to do that, they may actually be able to articulate their point of view in a better way, where you can hear more of it and it doesn't like get under your skin.
Yeah, especially if you're asking why they feel that way, because any feelings are valid feelings. So that makes it easy to handle that way.
Well, let's do the last card to be trust your vibes.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, this is the deck here. I like to show the book because if anybody wants to look for it for themselves.
That's another Sonia Choquette. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of hers. Sometimes I have a lot of Colette Baron Reid, but today I seem to have, wow, I took like 4 of her decks on my desk.
Wow.
Sonia. All right. So let's see what we get here is mentors and role models. Didn't we have that last week?
We had something like
mentors
that recently.
And role models.
Yeah.
We had it recently. Yeah, for sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. You know, when these cards come again and again, it's like, you got to pay attention to them.
It's basically like it's knocking on the door again saying, you didn't pay attention the first time.
There's more to get from this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Which is what we were just saying. When you actually listen again or listen to, or actually allow yourself to listen even for the first time without being triggered.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So mentors and role models, it says, if you've heard that being intuitive is a special gift only for the selected few, then you've been misinformed.
Mm-hmm.
We're all intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start paying attention to your vibes, you'll see that there are creative, artful, sixth sensory people all around, and they look normal, except for one thing: they shine, right? Because they can hold more light what is intuition? It's tapping into the light,
Mm-hmm.
If you hesitate to step out of the closet as a sixth sensory person, look for those mentors who inspire you to navigate the psychic highway with more confidence and ease. Seek out public people who demonstrate that being sixth sensory can indeed be graceful, creative, supportive, and fun. It's funny because I know whenever you see like a meme go by and it's someone famous or in Hollywood, and they're speaking to things like law of attraction or energy or past lives, you're like, wow, it takes your attention because it's like, oh, good, that person who's got a spotlight is saying this stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So role models for intuitive living are not that hard to find. They're the people who are ethical, humanitarian, and spontaneous. Their auras sparkle, they laugh out loud, and their enthusiasm for life is infectious.
Mm-hmm.
They listen, follow their heart, trust their feelings, speak their truth, and act on their instincts without hesitation. And they encourage you to do the same. Ask them what their secret is, and inevitably they will say, I trust my vibes. I trust my vibes.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. It really makes sense when you think about it, because any of us who have done any kind of work to improve ourselves, to improve the way we feel about ourselves, to improve our self-confidence, our love for ourselves and so forth, who have done affirmation work, who've done meditation, who've done all the different exercises you can do, we know what it's like when you go through the growth. And when you go through the growth, you run into this kind of thing that card was talking about. You basically are learning one step at a time how to do what the card was advocating that you do. So it actually makes a lot of sense from an experiential viewpoint of what it's like to be a conscious creator. It makes total sense.
You know what? I did a video for my month of March energy update. I haven't edited it yet, and I actually don't remember everything that came through, but I'm pretty sure the message was more of the same of that, like really getting in tune with you and what you know, and allowing yourself to be that energy. It came through in every card I think that I pulled was something to that effect, which is kind of what this is saying too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good stuff. Speaking of which, by the way, while we have a few minutes left, I want to make sure I get our promos in, partly because of the growth. I mean, I talked about the numbers earlier, and I want to keep that upward trajectory going. So I got to kind of get it out there some more. So if you're not yet a subscriber to the podcast, please become one. We'd love to have you be a part of our little, our large group, our growing group here. Very simple to do. Just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. And at the top of the page, you'll see instructions, usually 1 or 2 clicks for most people. And just like that, you're subscribed, and all of our episodes are coming right to your device every single time we publish them. Plus, you can check us out on YouTube. Just do a search there for LOA Today podcast videos. Subscribe there. Click the little bell so you can get notified whenever we put a subscription out there, or put an episode out there, rather. And you can actually join us on the live stream, like Jenny and Daniel and Josephine and Jeffrey and Nasha and others do, just being a part of the conversation. And we love having people who do exactly that. Plus, we really also enjoy it when people send stuff in like Beth did. In fact, specifically where Cindy Chavez, Beth made reference to Cindy, where Cindy Chavez and I are concerned, we're doing a lot more stuff with relationships on Wednesday. So send in any relationship topics or questions that you have in mind, and we will incorporate that into the show on Wednesday. Plus, write to us about any of my co-hosts, because we all love hearing from listeners. Isn't it, Linda? When you hear from a listener, doesn't it feel like, oh wow, we're really getting through to these people? They hear us, they understand.
Yeah. And we want to answer any questions you have. So
absolutely, yeah. So please do that. So good stuff. This has been a good show today. Can
I share something I just started doing?
Yeah.
These are inspiration cubes. So they're oil painted, right?
Oh,
and okay. each side, well, that one's inspire.
Right. You got peace. Yeah.
Shine. Create.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's all of them. So they're 6-sided cubes, right? Mm-hmm. And I just got this inspiration to do this, and I've made like 4 of these. I've put them up on my Etsy shop. So if you wanted to find them, just look for inspiration cubes. Okay. But they're fun because I feel like especially when you have like, you kind of down in the dumps or something, you can just like throw this thing up in the air
Mm-hmm.
and then see what word for, oh, shine. Okay. So I'm not letting myself be my true self and shine that light that I am, like sometimes just focusing on that word, like, okay, so what if I decide I'm going to shine for the rest of today? It can start blowing that energy off for you that was making you feel sunken. So anyway, it's just a fun thing. I thought I'd share.
Cool. Yeah. So anybody interested, go look for Linda's page on Etsy. All right.
On Etsy, I am called Pure Love Energy.
Pure Love Energy. Okay. So now we know what to search for. Very good.
Yeah.
So, all right. Good. Well, it's been a good conversation. Thank you, live streamers, for all of your input. We really appreciate that. And Linda, as usual, thanks for being such a great card reader and for all the insights about, crazy stuff going on from outer space and all that. Really good.
And thank you for being you and sharing every day with people. So, yeah.
Well, you're very welcome. I think the only person who enjoys it more than you is me. So thank you very much. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.